Hi, welcome. I'm Meredith McCarthy. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and a trainer of clinical hypnotherapy. And I thought today's talk time, we'd talk a little bit about how we use mindfulness and hypnosis together, how they work hand in hand to support emotional healing, stress relief, and also that personal transformation that we see and support our clients through. Now, in this episode, what inspired me is really the idea of meditation practice. And there's been a lot of evidence to suggest that mindfulness is very, very useful in reducing stress and anxiety. However, when I thought about this, we actually use mindfulness a lot of times within the hypnotic process with people. Let's get right into it. So, what is mindfulness, first of all? So, when we're kind of looking at being in the present moment, this is a big part of mindfulness practice, but we've got to do it non judgmentally. So, we've got to think about maybe observing our gentle space and just being rather than getting lost in the story about the meaning behind objects or how it makes you feel. It's more about just being present non-judgmentally, and that's more challenging than you think. So it is a practice. It's something that we can work on, but it could just be notice the breath, notice the coolness of the inhalation and the warmth of the exhalation. Notice how you feel in your body today. Maybe you're sitting. Notice the space underneath you and how it's supporting you, how it's holding the weight of your body. You might be aware of also the feeling of the clothes that you're wearing today on your skin. You might be aware perhaps of sounds around you. And when we gently observe non-judgmentally, it can really bring us into the present moment quite peacefully, if you like. So this is a big part of it. Mindfulness, breath awareness, body scans, guided meditations are all part of that mindfulness practice. I'd like to talk about how mindfulness has really become a trend in the mainstream healthcare and schools. So when we're kind of looking at, the adoption of this idea of mindfulness practice, it's more than just sitting cross-legged on the floor, closing your eyes and meditating. It is a method in which you can allow your mind to be just gently ushered in to being present. Many times we are thinking about the past or we're thinking about the future, and we're very rarely actually present in our body. In New Zealand, the government, they put together a scheme of making sure that cell phones are not part of the classroom. And that has been really important for, I think, children's development. Because when we're thinking about what a cell phone does, it's a great distractor, and it's taking you away into other worlds and other thoughts that isn't necessarily relating to this moment now that you're actually experiencing in real time. It's escapism, if you like. So our brain is getting this candy all the time, and it's getting bored when we don't get it. So we must really work on being more and more gadget free, just putting away those things and coming back into the here and now, being present in an actual conversation with a real human in front of you for a period of time without the constant distraction of the notification bell or something on your phone. So I think in this modern era, the idea of being a bit more mindful is really necessary to detach ourselves from the current trend that has occurred with social media and the ease of access of binge watching Netflix or other such things, it really does disappear time. But when you look back, it's very hard for that person to even remember where their time went. So it's very mindless, those activities. So if we think mindfulness is about being present and making really good use of being present. So if something wonderful does happen, we're able to enjoy it. We're able to be fully aware and present with that moment and let it fill us up mindfully. I like to share maybe an example of how eating can be a mindless activity for many. So if we hoof down our food very quickly and we're not really chewing it, we're hardly even tasting it, we're probably eating mindlessly. If, however, we eat it mindfully, it's kind of eating it and noticing its texture, noticing its juiciness or dryness or crunchiness or smoothness, whatever that is, but noticing how it is to chew the food mindfully, really taste it properly. And that is a much more satisfying way of eating. And in fact, they did a study many years ago. They had 2 tables full of food. They blindfolded one group of people with the table, and the other table were to eat normally. Now, they instructed the people to stop when they're full. When they measured after the food was all there, when they measured how much the people had eaten that were blindfolded, that was far less than the people who weren't blindfolded. So when they were blindfolded, they need to be more mindful of what they were eating. They weren't sure what they were putting in their mouth, and they were in discovery mode. And that allowed them to stay curious in the moment. When you looked at the other table of people eating, they were mindlessly eating. They weren't really that focused on the food at all. They were talking and chatting to everyone else around them and really not paying too much attention to what they put in their mouth. And they ended up eating way more than they needed. So they became overfull. So even that, just tuning back in, slowing down as you eat your food, as if you weren't looking at it. Let's take away one sense, close our eyes and just chew and mindfully eat. You might find that you end up feeling more satisfied, and you feel the sensation or connect to the sensation of being full before you are over full. So that's a good example of how we might use mindfulness in our daily life. When we're kind of looking at the common myths around hypnosis, it is a therapeutic tool. And this is something that I really want to kind of talk on. Hypnotherapy can help a client shift long-standing patterns that don't work for them anymore. And really, it is both directive and exploratory in its nature. But we need to start off often where the overlap is. When you're allowing a person to go into hypnosis, you're inviting them to come into stillness. You're inviting them for a moment to be present in this moment now and to focus potentially on a single point of attention. And that could be the breath, or it could be sensations around them, or a sound. And then you're utilizing that experience to take them deeper and deeper into hypnosis. Once we're in hypnosis, though, we can begin to invite the client to explore the patterns that have been holding them back, and to imagine letting those go and thinking about the future intentions of how they want life to become. So we invite them to do a dress rehearsal of how they want things to go. Now, this is a mindfulness process because the client is following instructions. They're with you during that process, and they are actioning their imagination, but in a mindful way. So instead of it just any old thing that they're imagining, we're selectively inviting them to think about something mindfully in a certain type of way. Now, mindfulness helps integrate hypnotherapy sessions by building self-awareness between the sessions as well. So you might add in, from now on, every time you go into that situation, you begin to become more aware of the sensations of happiness within you. So that's a mindfulness call to notice the sensations of happiness or the feelings of confidence within you. You might begin to notice too the positive thoughts that stream through your mind whenever you go to do that wonderful activity that in the past may have made you feel scared. But as you go into the future, you only have feelings of confidence and trust. So these are the kind of things that a hypnotherapist can implant mindfully into the client's mind as an experience that they can look forward to having later in time. So it's called a post-hypnotic suggestion. So this is what we work on all the time with our clients. Now, I'm a trainer for the NZACH, the New Zealand Academy of Clinical Hypnotherapy here in New Zealand, and we do an online journey with our students, and I love teaching them about mindfulness and about really the placement of thoughts, how we can support our clients to be their best. And this is something that is really important, focusing on the blend of what I've learnt as a long-time meditator and also a teacher of meditation, along with understanding the power and the principles of suggestion. So those two things can really couple up to be very, very powerful for teaching students how to be the best kind of therapist. So mindfully journeying the client through and having a process to follow is a big part of it. I'm also a great believer that the client has the answer. And so we need to stay mindful of that as a practitioner. We need to allow ourselves to be mindful of the kind of questions that we might be asking a client to elicit their awareness, their self-realization. This is important as part of the journey of empowering people. Now, if you're interested in learning more about hypnosis or even mindfulness practice, get in touch. I'm passionate about teaching and doing this. I've been doing this for a very long time, over 30 plus years, and I was running meditation retreats from 2007, teaching people how to do various styles of meditation, including mindfulness practice. So if you're curious about how that is and how that all works, please feel free to get in touch. You can visit the website nzach.ac.nz. And if you're interested, I can also connect with you over a discovery call and answer any other questions you might have about what we offer in the way of training. So I hope you've enjoyed today's talk time about mindfulness and hypnosis and how they combine together. If you've got any comments you'd like to add, please feel free, or questions that you would like to ask, please feel free to do that. I'd love to talk to that. Anyway, thank you for joining me on this talk time, and I hope to see you next week. Bye for now.